How much should I power clean? Today I want to discuss how much should I power clean, what's the right frequency sessions per week, what's the right loading pattern, and how many sets and reps to do in a power clean. So how much should I power clean? We've discussed the question of how much before. Basically, how much can refer to a lot of things. So one is the frequency, the amount of sessions per week. One is the volume, so the sets and the repetitions. But how much can also refer to the loading pattern. So how much weight should I lift as a percentage of my personal best, the 1RM. Or also the loading pattern in the power clean becomes important. How much should I lift in relation to my body weight? Yeah, so can I lift half of my body weight, or can I lift 1 time my body weight, or maybe more than 1 time my body weight? So if we're looking at frequency per week, again, that's not an easy answer because it depends very much on what you want to get out of the training and what your goal is. In most cases, in my training, the athletes are full-time athletes in another sport. So they are not weightlifters. If you're an Olympic weightlifter, you might do power cleans more often a week, 4, 5, 6 times whatsoever. For my athletes, they compete in another sport. So we use the power clean to improve their sport performance. And then it also depends on the period, whether we are in season or whether we are in the preparatory period. If we're in the preparatory period, we do it a little bit more often. If we are in the in-season, we do it less. Not only the power clean, but also the volume of training, excuse me, volume is the wrong word. Also the amount of training sessions per week are less. So let's answer the question, how much in terms of frequency per week? As I said, in my life as a coach, the athletes very rarely are weightlifters. So if we do 3 sessions a week, many times we do power clean twice a week. If we do 2 sessions a week, we can still do it 2 times. But I prefer to mix it up. So for example, we do the power clean in 1 session and the power snatch in another session, or we do power clean in 1 session and a derivative of the power clean in another session, which could be the clean pull or another exercise. So you're very well off if you do the power clean right once a week, but you can also do it 2 times a week. But I just want to get onto the misconception. There's no point you don't really need to do a power clean 4, 5, 6 times a week. Do it well and do it once or twice, and that's enough. So in terms of volume, sets and reps in a power clean, if we start with the reps, in my opinion, there's no point doing a lot of reps consecutively in a power clean just because of the technical demand of a power clean. You want to stick to lower repetitions. So very rarely I do more than 3 repetitions. Yeah, so I normally stick to 1, 2, or 3. And if I want to ramp up the volume in training, I much rather do more sets of 3 repetitions than 5, 8, or 10 repetitions in a power clean. Again, the simple reason is that a power clean is very demanding technically. So you will see over an amount of repetitions that the technique breaks down pretty quickly. So athletes are very seldom able to do multiple repetitions with a good technique. You can see they can maintain proper technique for 2 or 3 repetitions. After that, it becomes a bit difficult. So that's why I prefer keeping the repetitions low. Yeah, so making sure every repetition they are doing is a quality repetition. And if I want to bring the overall volume up, and let's say I want to do 15 repetitions or 20 repetitions in a session, then I much rather break it down in multiple sets. So if we're looking at, let's make it easy to calculate, if I want to do 18 total repetitions, I might prescribe 6 sets of 3 repetitions. The next question, how many sets should I do? Again, that depends very much on your goal, but it also depends very much on the intensity you're working at. Remember, I spoke about that before. Intensity and volume, there is an inverse relationship. So if intensity is high, you just can't do a lot of volume. So if we're working with high intensities above 90% of the 1 RM, it's just not possible to do many, many sets. Yeah. So at higher intensities, again, it's very difficult to give a concrete number. At higher intensities, we might do a total of 2 to 3 sets. Yeah. But high intensities, we really talk about 95% or above. So 2 to 3 sets at higher intensities. If intensities are lower, let's say 85 or less, then the total amount of sets might be a bit higher. So we can do 5, 6, sometimes 8 sets. If we're looking at the loading pattern in terms of percentage of the 1 RM, in my experience, and again, that's purely my experience, there is not much point in doing 60% of the 1 RM because the weight is just so light, so it'll fly up. What we much rather do is we work at high intensities, and then if we don't want to train intensely, we much rather reduce the repetitions. So I wouldn't do, if I do 85% and I want to do a light training, I do 85% and then 1 or 2 reps. If I want to do a heavy training, then 85% or above 90% and then 2 to 3 reps. Yeah, again, I'll discuss that in another episode because it's just very extensive. So that was about the loading pattern. One of the very common questions is also, how much should I lift in relation to my body weight? And that's a difficult question to answer, because one thing you need to understand, obviously, first and foremost, it is important to look at your power clean in relation to your body weight. But on the other hand, it's even more important that you execute it correctly. So, which basically means you want to have good execution and then look at the loading pattern. Athletes, we're talking about athletes, we're not talking about weightlifters. Athletes, well-trained athletes, they can do 1.5 times or more of their body weight. So for example, someone who weighs, let's make it easy as an example, 80 kilos can do 150%, which is 120 kilos in the power clean or a bit more. But again, these numbers are not written in stone, and I really encourage not chasing these numbers. I really encourage learning and mastering the technique, and the numbers will go up automatically. As a quick recap, that's a long session. So we spoke about the frequency per week, depending on the training goal. We spoke about sets and repetitions, the volume, and we spoke about the loading pattern in terms of percentage of the 1 RM, your personal best, and also the loading pattern in terms of relation to your body weight.